All right, fam, this is a special edition of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I normally come to you live at 6 p.m. Eastern each evening, but I had to come to you live because, first of all, I'm in New York City. Here for the national. I was here last night for the National Cares Mentoring Gala. Tonight, we're going to be live streaming the celebration of life for Harry Belafonte at 6 p.m. Eastern. But I had to talk about this Joe Rogan podcast with Katt Williams. And there were a lot of things that they talked about in the podcast, but what really got my attention because of an effort that I'm actually involved with dealt with the issue of African Americans and menthol cigarettes. This has been an issue we've talked about on the show on numerous occasions. And so Rogan asked Katt about it, and both of them made no sense whatsoever. And so I want to talk about it so you have the truth right now, so people are not walking around clueless listening to the nonsense that they actually talked about. So here's what was discussed on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Does your government control you? Even when things don't even make sense. Like in California, they made flavored vapes illegal. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Like strawberry mist is our number one
That was
problem.
fine, but they let it also hurt black people in that it counted menthol as a flavor and hurt Newport.
So you can't sell menthol cigarettes in California.
Right. They have their own cigarettes that have
wild.
non-menthol Newports. Yeah. It's terrible.
Why do black people like menthol so much? What's that about? It's a totally different type of cigarette.
You're going to get me canceled.
No.
This is very racist, this
Is
conversation, even though neither of us are. Go figure.
Just talking about a type of cigarette that people enjoy?
Just saying, why do black people like Newport so much? And a black person actually getting ready to answer this. Oh, it's terrible on all ends.
I don't think it is.
Well, I don't think it is either, because we have a new.
It's like if you start asking me about spaghetti, I'm not going to get offended. You start asking me about Italian food or why are Italian people so loud? I'm not gonna get offended.
How many people have ever died of pasta-related illnesses?
A lot,
Joe.
A lot of fatzos out there kicking the bucket, bro.
That's not because of pasta.
That's an overabundance of carbohydrates.
They were going to be fat wherever they lived, sir.
Maybe. That's an overabundance.
Going to be great bread eaters and
delicious high carbohydrate food. They couldn't stop it. People are addicted to food like they're addicted to anything. If there's a thing that I could ever be addicted to, it's that.
Right. That's all of us, though.
All of us.
And what a blessing.
Yeah. We have so much.
Starving people are addicted to anything, and they don't have food-related illnesses.
Exactly.
But back to where we were.
Yeah.
You were asking me about the menthol cigarettes.
Oh, that's right.
And the answer is we value strength in product. So there's this whole thing with liquor and malt liquor and the difference between the two, and one is richer and stronger.
And the more potent version.
Right. And as a people, we tend to go with those products.
Things that are stronger. That makes sense.
Right. Like before things were called concentrate.
Yeah.
That's what we appreciated.
That makes sense.
Concentrated. And the fact that menthol is a natural thing. So, anybody who is from the South knows about mint plants and,
And menthol used as a skincare product, like injuries and shit.
Right. Like you appreciate that as a flavor profile as
well.
Right.
That makes sense.
The mint julep.
It's just telling people they can't have that anymore. Who the fuck are you? That's my position.
Well, and that's a noble position, and we appreciate the fact that you represent that. But the truth of the matter is not pretty. And the truth of the matter is that most people would like to be controlled more by their government if they
make it easier. Maybe.
Most people are all for government control. as long as they don't have to discuss it.
Okay. So that was utterly nonsense. And I think it's important that we don't wait around to figure out what's the truth. And so joining me right now is my dear friend. You've seen her on the show before, Dr. Mignonne Guy. She's associate professor, Department of African American Studies, Virginia Commonwealth University. She has been on the show discussing this very issue. I've been on panels with her discussing this issue. So we're not newbies to this. And so, Doc, you can just take it away. No need for me to even just throw out a question. When you saw this discussion about menthol cigarettes and Black people, what did you think?
Well, my first response is I was heartbroken because I am a big fan of Katt Williams, and I was gutted and devastated by his comments with Joe Rogan. I would expect Joe Rogan to make these kind of comments. They were very racist. His were actually, but not from Katt. Now, one thing that we need to understand is that, first he said that California ban has harmed Black people, right? By banning menthol, we have harmed Black people. That is not the case. That is not true. By keeping these products on the market, keeping menthol cigarettes on the market, we are killing Black people. And we are killing 45,000 Black lives every year in this country when we keep these products on the market. So that's point number one. We have not harmed Black people by banning these products in California. We have saved Black lives. And I would hope that Katt Williams would be on board with that. The second issue that he made was that menthol is a flavor and it's natural. Unfortunately, the menthol constituents that are in tobacco products are chemicals. And they are chemicals that increase nicotinic receptors in our brains. So they increase the number of receptors in our brain that says, give me more menthol cigarettes, give me more menthol cigarettes, right? And so adding these chemicals to cigarettes make them more addictive. They make individuals more dependent. So he's right. They are stronger, and they're stronger in a way that makes it harder for you to quit. So these are not products that, because we like strength and we like things that taste a certain way, that somehow they are less harmful or somehow we should permit them in our community. We absolutely should not. Those products are manipulated in a manner that make people more dependent, make it harder to quit, and that end up killing 45,000 Black lives every year, right? This is not government control. I am a state employee. I'm a professor. But let me tell you something. I do not work for the government. I do not hope for government control. I am a researcher. I am a scholar. I am an advocate for saving Black lives, which is precisely why I do the work that I do, right? I'm not going to roll over just because the big government tells me to do these products. I do this because I see my brothers, my sisters, my aunts, my uncles, everybody that looks like me. We are the ones that continue to suffer from these products being on the market. Yes, Joe Rogan was right. They banned flavored vapes. They banned other flavored cigarettes in the 2009 Family Smoking Prevention Tobacco Control Act, but they did not ban menthol at that point in time when they had the opportunity to. And they didn't because the tobacco industry, menthol cigarettes comprise 37% of the market share of cigarettes in this country. So they thought, oh, that's fine. We'll keep these 37% of our market share. It doesn't matter that 85% of Black people who smoke menthol cigarettes. We don't mind. We'll leave them on the table. So when we talk about these policies around menthol, and when we talk about these products particularly, we need to understand exactly what they are. So I would hope that Katt and Joe would educate themselves and have a better understanding about the dangers of these products within our communities, as opposed to being proponents of keeping them on the market and continuing to harm our communities, continuing to lose those 45,000 Black lives every year, continuing to lose our young people who end up using these products, young Black and brown individuals, children and youth and young adults that are more likely to use these products because they taste better and because they make the poison go down more smoothly. The minty products that we're used to in the South that Katt was talking about in this format are killing us. And that
so
created.
let's go back and first start with Rogan complaining about the flavored vapes. The reality is that the tobacco industry saw the data, and the data showed that the people who were smoking in America, it was decreasing.
That's right.
And their deal was, okay, well, baby boomers, they're getting older, they're passing away. Fewer Gen Xers were smoking, and then fewer millennials and fewer Gen Z. So they needed to create a product that could attract the younger person that would introduce them to the tobacco family and then transition them to become smokers, correct?
That's right. To transition them to be dependent on nicotine products, right? So the tobacco industry, these people are very wise. They study all of our communities very carefully because they're in the business of making money. So they have to have an off-ramp. They're not going to close down a multi-billion-dollar business. So they're going to introduce new products every time in order to, as public health decreases, as our work in public health decreases the use of tobacco, combustible tobacco products, the ones that you're burning, right? The combustible ones, you see automatically the introduction of non-combustible products that they say are safer or that are harm reduction products. These are not safer products. These are different mechanisms for delivering the same type of drug, which is nicotine, right? And the thing that we have to remember with this, because right now we are trying to ban menthol in the country. California has been successful. They are a role model for the rest of us. But the federal government has not yet banned menthol in across the US. But let's just watch what happens with this one, because in that pending ban, that potential ban that's at the federal government right now, they're talking about banning menthol cigarettes, combustible cigarettes, and potentially flavored cigars, but they are not talking about banning menthol vapes. So it gets to your point, Roland, which is if the industry has to ban the menthol, if the federal government finally gets that ban through, and the industry that menthol is gone, it's off the market, menthol cigarettes have gone away from the market, then there's a new product that's introduced that will take the place, that will be the off-ramp for the tobacco industry to continue to sell their drugs in these communities.
So we know that the Biden administration, they delayed the announcement. The FDA has talked about this ban. This was in December. So they have to make a decision by March. By next month.
That's right.
Whether to actually do this.
That's right.
And so there have been a number of individuals, organizations, and others out there that support this ban on menthol cigarettes.
Yes.
There was last month, that was this menthol funeral that took place in the nation's capital.
That's right.
And so what people don't seem to understand about this is that also there are big city mayors that are supporting this. Mayor of LA, Karen Bass, the mayor of Cleveland, Justin Bibb, the mayor of Pittsburgh, Ed Gainey, the mayor of Columbus, Ohio, Andrew Ginther, the former mayor of Columbus, Ohio, Michael Coleman, who was a menthol cigarette user for 30 years, the mayor of Savannah, Van Johnson, the mayor of St. Louis, Tashara Jones, the former mayor of Philadelphia, Michael Nutter, Andy Shore, the mayor of Lansing, and so we could go on and on and on. And so they understand the health implications about this. As you said, this ain't about Black people in mint juleps and us sipping on a drink. This is not about Black people using Vicks Vapor Rub on our chest and backs when we're sick. This is literally a targeted effort that the tobacco industry, how they have targeted Black people, and you have the research in terms of how they methodically looked at Black people and studied Black people to determine what cigarette to market to us. Talk about that.
That's right. And you know what? Here's the beauty about it, Roland. The tobacco industry. So when there was a lawsuit that you and I have spoken about before, which was the master settlement agreement, when the tobacco industry was sued by several entities, and they had to provide additional funds for cessation and for other things as a result of it. But there was something that was really important that came out of that master settlement agreement. And they were required, tobacco industry executives were required to turn over all of their internal documents, their emails, they weren't emails at the time, but their documents about their strategies, about their tactics, about various types of methods that they were going to use to sell their products, right? So those are all available to the public. So these are not things that we're making up. The University of California at San Francisco have the tobacco industry documents, and any person, any resident, any citizen, even internationally, any person in the public can go look at those documents themselves, and they can actually research and look at the strategies that were used by the tobacco industry over years in order to target Black communities. So there are documents that are out there that explicitly state that the tobacco industry, for example, understood that Black Americans like to go to cultural events. They like to, they want to be perceived as a certain image. A lot of them go to church. So if we give money to churches, then we'll be able to get these products in their communities. If we sponsor different music events or cultural affairs, tie ourselves with those communities, then our brand would be recognized and it'll feel like it's part of the Black community. So they studied us. I am a Black studies professor. The tobacco industry was studying Blacks. They were conducting Black studies before my discipline actually existed, because they hired social psychologists and they hired sociologists to study our practices, to study our likes, our dislikes, to study our fears, our concerns. And that's how they have consistently kept these products in our communities. And this is
so hold on. So when we say we were targeted,
mm-hmm.
You say the data shows they literally hired experts to put Black people under a microscope to figure out how can we, one, create a product and market the product to them that they will accept.
That's right. That's right. They have it specifically, and they talk about not just Black people, they talk about young people specifically. How do we create products that are more appealing to young Black people? They also, the most nefarious part about it, and which I really hope your audience does at some point go look at these documents, or they can email me and they can ask me and I can show them exactly where to find the documents, because it's one thing when we say them, but it's something else when you read it for yourself. There were other documents in the industry documents at UCSF, which is when they figured out that cigarette smoking, menthol smoking in particular, was associated with low birth weight, right, in Black women. There are documents that explicitly state that, well, so what? It's okay. Perhaps it's okay that Black women have smaller babies because they have so many. Perhaps it'll be less painful. So they knew that it was harmful to our communities. They knew that it was harming our Black babies, and they said, "Oh, well, it's okay. It's okay. It doesn't really matter because they have so darn many of them. Maybe it'll be less painful for them if they're smaller in the long run." So these are the types of, and so when I hear people say, "Oh, this is the government. This is someone trying to take things away." No, what's happening is that these tobacco industries are targeting, they are hunting, they are infiltrating our Black communities, and then they're manipulating individuals within our communities to somehow think that this is okay, so that they can continue to sell their product that, when used as intended, will kill 100% of their users. So I don't understand what Katt is really speaking about at this point in time, to be quite honest. I cannot understand how anyone could be a proponent, anyone particularly who says that they care about Black lives and saving Black lives and wants to stand up for our communities, how they could somehow conflate this ban as being harmful, or state that this ban is harmful and we're somehow taking something away that wasn't in our communities to begin with. That was actually, we were studied and we were targeted and we were consistently preyed upon again and again and again. And we were left on the table in 2009 when in fact we could have removed these products from our market. My mother smoked menthol cigarettes, right? My mother died of pancreatic cancer before I was the age of 18. I was an orphan as a result of someone using these products. So I am not somebody that's going to come on here and talk about it from a government perspective or even from a researcher's perspective. I see these in my communities every single day. We all know what's happening in our communities. And for us to sort of turn a blind eye and decide that somehow this is the federal government, no, this was me. This is people like me and those mayors that you were talking about and people like you, Roland, who care about the health of our communities and who want to save the lives of our community members. This is what's at stake right now.
And so again, I want to unpack this for people to understand. Even calling it cool, KOOL. And what people don't understand was they also understood how white corporations refused to advertise with Black-owned media.
Right.
And so what did they do? They became a lifeline to Black newspapers. We all remember the full page ads. And anybody knows who studies magazine, that the back page of a magazine and the inside back page are the two most profitable pages. And they did 52-week ad buys. Jet, they did 12-month ad buys. Ebony, they bought Essence, they bought all the Black magazines, all the Black newspapers. They literally sponsored numerous jazz festivals. The Cool Jazz Festival is now the Cincinnati Music Festival, but that's what it was called. They sponsored the traveling concerts. And so everywhere in Black America, we were inundated with cool, cool, cool. The billboards, they were on playgrounds. And even in the advertisements, it was how we were smoking and laughing, enjoying ourselves. Their whole deal was, as you said, using the sociologist and psychologist, said, right. No. Let's show them it's cool to smoke cools.
That's right. That's right. And let me tell you, here's another reference for your audience. I'm trying to find the email or the website link, because they're at Stanford University. They have a collection of all of the ads for tobacco products over the years, right? So all those ads that you're talking about, those Ebony and Jet, some of your audience members may be too young to remember those types of adverts. But at Stanford University, they have a collection of all of the ads that have been used to sell tobacco products. And you can see the Cool Jazz Festival, right? And you can see certain images that would be appealing to that audience at that time. You can see the Newport, you can see the Virginia Slims, and you can see some of the Black models that were not able to get jobs back in those days. You can see some of the faces that we know, like Beverly Johnson, right? One of the most beautiful Black women in the world who couldn't get a job at that point in time, but they put her in tobacco ads, right? And so suddenly we were able to see somebody that looked like us, or suddenly we were able to see people that were doing things that were that seemed like they were representing our communities, right? They even at one point, there's some ads out there that they actually, it's mind-blowing. They actually have an ad that looks like it's Martin Luther King Jr. with this "I Have a Dream" speech, but it's selling cigarettes to our communities. What are they really trying to do, right? So somehow they want to tie civil rights, which some people talk about, this is a right for Black people to smoke. They want to somehow tie our struggle with civil rights and use our icons from the civil rights movement to try to sell us a poison to kill us. This is what they've done years, and these are all publicly available. These are all of the documentation at UCSF, anyone can access, and anyone that has a computer can Google the Stanford tobacco advertising, and they can find all of the ads over the years. They can even find the ads earlier on, before they were trying to sell menthol cigarettes to us. They can find other ads that are highly racist ads, showing us as pickaninnies, right? So why do we want these products in our communities, and why are we defending them in our communities when this is how we've been depicted over the years? And yes, they preyed upon the Black media, because the Black media We have always been set up to fail in this country, right? We have always been set up. So the Black media outlets that we've had have never had adequate support. And so anytime they had to, and we needed it because it was important, these are the only media outlets that will speak truth to us and that will speak to our issues and not frame them in a way and whitewash them in a way that becomes harmful for us. And so the tobacco industry saw a need, saw the gap, leveraged or exploited all of the divestment from our communities, and they came and paid for these ads to go in our media outlets and to make sure that they sent those products to our communities, to make sure that they can spread the drugs, deal their drugs.
And what they're still doing is they still continue to target our community. When this FDA ban was put in place, they went hot and heavy. They began to spread money around to civil rights groups, to civil rights leaders. They began to target. Now their new trick is to convince Black people that, if they ban menthol cigarettes, we're going to be seeing an increase in police abuse and encounters, and Black men are going to be the next Eric Garner and get taken down by the cops. And they literally went out and got folks with members of Noble. The organization has not endorsed their position, but they've got members of Noble involved in this, touting this thing as well, and literally making the argument that, this is going to increase police encounters because people don't understand what the actual proposed ban is. It hasn't. So tell people exactly what that ban is and how the tobacco industry is spreading big money around the Black community to try to stop this ban.
That's right. That's right. I have a talk. When I talk about this, I do a public talk, and I talk about the gaslighting that's occurring in the Black communities, and I call it the terrorism and tactics of the tobacco industry as they gaslight Black America. It's exploiting Black trauma. That's what they're doing. So they've paid millions of dollars for some leaders, some Black leaders, and other individuals to exploit Black trauma, to exploit the very real problem of police brutality and hyper policing and over policing in our communities. I don't want police in my communities, right? So if I hear them saying, oh gosh, if we ban menthol, then police are going to come to my communities. But that's the problem with their argument. This ban is not at the individual level. The ban is at the manufacturer, it's at the retailer, and it's the manufacturer, the retailer, and the distributor level, right? In distribution. It's at those levels, right? So unless you're manufacturing menthol cigarettes or you're retailing menthol cigarettes or distributing them, bringing them between the two entities, this ban will not affect the individuals. It is not going to increase policing in our communities. It is not going to increase police encounters in our communities. It is not going to increase police harassment in our communities. Those things exist already. And if police want to harass Black people, they're going to talk to us about our broken tail light, right? They're going to say that we didn't stop at the stop sign, but you don't hear anybody talking about this. You don't hear anybody trying to address those issues. You hear them manipulating this ban that is not even at the individual level. It is at the tobacco industry level, right? And they're using it to scare the hell out of us. And it is it is outright exploitation, and it's gaslighting. It's gaslighting Black people to make us think somehow that we have something else that we need to fear when we have so much that we're concerned with on the daily basis. This ban is not at the individual level. The ban will have nothing to do if you get caught with a menthol cigarette in your hand. I don't know how you're going to get caught with them in your hand when they're not allowed to sell them anymore, or they're not allowed to import them into our country, right? They're not going to. It is not at the individual level. It's at the tobacco industry level. It is at the retailer's level, and it is at the distributor's level, not the individual.
And so one of the things that Rogan was talking about is, this is taking away freedoms and the government, controlling you. Let's be real clear. The government has very clear policies about lead in water. The government has the government regulates air, regulates water, regulates
Seatbelts.
car exhaust, regulates seat belts. I mean, we can go on and on and on in terms of, and maybe the argument is like, well, that's just, too much regulation. But here, what's interesting is that these people act like, oh, we've got to just be free. And you're going, okay, but let's talk about the dead.
That's right. The dead or the addicted or the new ones coming up. So the freedom argument is actually a very interesting argument because what's interesting to me is they're like, we need all of our freedom, what? To be addicted to a drug that you cannot get off that's harder to quit than heroin? That argument doesn't really work very well, right? And as you said, we have government regulations around everything. And I want government to regulate lead in my water. I don't want to live in Flint. You know what I'm saying?
And you want government to also be checking to make sure that paint that's on the playgrounds where kids are.
Exactly.
No one seems to complain about that.
Exactly. And these are all things, the things that you've identified are things that will kill us, right, Roland? And cigarettes, menthol cigarettes will kill us too. So here's one more thing that we need to think about, because there's another argument that I'm gonna jump to that I've heard before, and I'm just gonna jump to it right now. Well, banning menthol is racist. We shouldn't ban menthol. If we're not going to ban all cigarettes, why are we banning menthol? It's racist against Black people. No, how they got into our communities was racist against Black people. How the tobacco industry used redlining. They used these residential segregation. They used these vestiges of Jim Crow to make sure that we were all in these neighborhoods, and then we could bombard these neighborhoods with advertisements, and we can make sure that those in Black neighborhoods, you have more advertising available, you have bigger advertising available, you have them closer to school, so you can make sure that our Black children can see those ads and use those products, right? That is what's racist, right? Banning menthol is really reparations, and it's leveling the playing field. It's pulling back something that should have been done a long time ago. The reason why we were able to ban menthol cigarettes, potentially, if they do, is because they are a different product than regular cigarettes. We are not comparing apples and apples. We are comparing apples and oranges. And that orange menthol cigarette is more dangerous. It is more addicting. We are more likely to die. People use them differently. They inhale them differently. If you ever smoked a cigarette and tried to smoke a regular Winston or something like that, I can't remember what the names are, Camel, right? Versus smoking a menthol. When you smoke a Camel, what are you going to do? You're going to cough it up, right? When you smoke a menthol cigarette, it soothes. It has anesthetic appeal, it's more smooth as it goes down your throat, right? So it's got this anesthetic sort of response that you have. And so you can hold it in longer, you can hold it in your chest longer, and you can take longer drags, and you can smoke more of them because you're less likely to cough. That's not the same as what happens with regular cigarettes, right? So the reason why we even are having this talk about the ban, it's not because just Black people smoke them. It's because they are a different product that are more dangerous. And they know that there is no evidence-based cessation device on the market for them. So we have to ban them because we don't have an off-ramp for people to be able to quit using them. This is our option that we have. We do not want lead in our water. We do not want lead in our paint. We do not want bad air, polluted air in our neighborhoods. And we do not want these chemicals in our bodies that affect every single organ in the body. It's not just lung cancer I'm talking about. It's every type of cancer is linked to, most cancers are linked to menthol cigarette smoking and smoking. Cardiovascular disease, asthma, respiratory disease. We all have these issues in our communities. So anybody that's concerned about any of these issues related to cardiovascular disease, cancers, respiratory disease, they have to be on the side of banning menthol. We have to be on the side of banning menthol if we are going to save Black lives, and we're going to reduce the comorbidities and the chronic diseases in our communities that result from it. We do not want our Black young kids, our children, exposed to the secondhand smoke. Kids who are exposed to secondhand smoke also have greater nicotinic receptors in their brain, and therefore they're more likely to smoke later on in the future. We can't have these in our communities anymore. That's it. It's a non-starter.
And for all the folks out there who don't seem to understand this, here are the various organizations that stand with us when it comes to banning menthol cigarettes. 100 Black Men of America, African American Tobacco Control Leadership Council, African American Wellness Project, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, the Association of Black Cardiologists, the Association of Black Women Physicians, the Black Men's Health Initiative, Black Women's Health Initiative, Black Women's Roundtable, Church of God in Christ Social Justice Ministry, Mocha Moms Inc., the NAACP, National Black Empowerment Council, the National Black Nurses Association, the National Caucus and Center on Black Aging Inc., National Council of Negro Women, the National Medical Association, that's the group of Black doctors, Save a Girl, Save a World, the Arc of Justice, the Center for Black Health and Equity, the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation, the National Council of the Churches of Christ in the United States. Folks, those are just some of the groups that stand with us when it comes to this particular ban. And again, the decision we'll hear from the Biden administration by next month. And as we know, Mignonne, look, Big Tobacco was pushing real hard, paying a lot of people, a lot of lobbyists to stop this. And hopefully the Biden administration will stand firm and absolutely move forward, allow the FDA to ban menthol cigarettes. And so if Joe Rogan and Katt Williams want to have a conversation, and again, it's Joe Rogan's podcast. So Joe, you want to have a conversation? Why don't you call some real experts to talk about it, not ask Katt Williams? And again, Katt may not even be aware of all this information, but the bottom line is some of the stuff he was saying was dead wrong. It was simply wrong. And he look, Katt was smoking during the interview. Hey, dude, knock yourself out. But the reality is this: here we know the truth when it comes to menthol cigarettes and how Black people were targeted. And so, no, Katt, you're not going to get canceled for talking about it. But I dare say, Joe Rogan needs to have a real conversation with real people about the real effects of menthol cigarettes on Black people.
Absolutely.
Mignonne, always a pleasure. Glad for you to jump on this live with me. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Take care.
All right. Hey, folks, again, 6 p.m. Eastern today, we're going to be carrying the celebration of life for Harry Belafonte on Rogan and Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. We appreciate y'all joining us. Look, share this far and wide. You need to understand that if we talk about Black Lives Matter, it includes Black people who are smoking cigarettes, who are smoking menthol cigarettes, 45,000 a year. 45,000 Black people a year are dying because of tobacco. And so, look, let's change those numbers. Hey, folks, also, lastly, support us in what we do. Your support is critical for us to do the work that we do. We're not generating the advertising money and others, but we're doing the best that we can. So you can see your checking money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland@RolandSMartin.com. Roland@RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Thanks a bunch, folks. I'll see you guys later. Holla.